Welcome everybody to TruExact Show. I'm here with Ellie, Eric, and Brian, and we are here with a special guest tonight. We have a world record holder, mountain climber, adventurous. We'll get into everything pretty much. There's too much to go to. The one, the only Jordan Romero. How you doing, man?
Great, Scott. Good to be here. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure. It's always good to meet new faces and then talk a little bit.
No, it's awesome. I spent a lot of time searching like what your right Instagram was, Twitter, because you never know. And finally, like the email worked out, and I was like, all right, great, this works out beautifully. You were probably like a little skeptical at first, like what's this idiot messaging me about? But luckily, you're a nice guy. You're a very nice guy.
Thanks. Yeah, it's I'm always down for the count, man. I have like thoughts about like starting my own podcast or just doing something that will involve like inviting guests, and I know it means a lot for them to say yes and kind of give some time, and I'm always happy to do it, man. It's always a pleasure just like I said, talking to people and meeting spaces, discussing cool topics, sharing my story. So yeah, man, it's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you very much. It's one of the kindest segments we've ever had on this show. Seriously. All right, so before we get into some questions here, first tell us a little about yourself, how you got into climbing and, your adventures type lifestyle, where you grew up, your upbringing, if you wanted to start with that.
Yeah, that's a loaded question. I mean, I don't know where to start. So I grew up in Southern California in a small mountain town called Big Bear Lake, if anyone is familiar. Yeah. So, and I see you have a 49er show. Are you from California?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Are you from SoCal? Or?
No, I'm from NorCal, but I just moved down to Long Beach, and I have friends that have a cabin up in Big Bear, so they talk about it all the time. They're like, come to Big Bear, and I'm like, yeah, yes.
Exactly. So when she turned the coin cabin, that kind of paints a little picture of what Big Bear is like. I mean, everyone calls their second, like, even if it's a house, they call it a cabin. But it's kind of like this little mountain, Southern California mountain getaway town, kind of a resort town that relies a lot on tourism, ski resort in the winter, lots of cool stuff to do over the summer, tons of mountain biking and all sorts of stuff to do. So amazing place to grow up, kind of a miniature version of like Lake Tahoe to give you an idea of what it looks like.
SoCal Tahoe.
Yep, exactly. And doesn't get a lot of snow. I mean, I growing up there, it would be like 60 degrees, like in the middle of January, and fully slushy conditions, which kind of, it's that bred me into liking that type of riding. I mean, like right now in Utah is like my perfect time, March, late spring, just wearing sunglasses, skiing. It's awesome. But so I grew up with a pretty adventurous family and not nomadic, but, traveling a lot. My dad was into expedition racing, and my mom was going to school when she had me and was aspiring to be an education and school teacher. So my parents divorced when I was 3, and then shortly after that, my dad met my stepmother, Karen, then at the time, who later on ended up being who I climbed all the 7 summits with, her and my dad, but we'll get to that later. And so yeah, grew up traveling a bit to some of my dad's like adventure races that he would go to, and just didn't really see any interest in it. My dad I would always see the pain and suffering that he would go through. Didn't really understand why he was doing that. And if anyone here is familiar, like with Eco Challenge, Mark Burnett and some of the other, it's like an old TV show or a reality TV show that used to be done. That just brought film crews like through some rugged times. So the show didn't last like too long. But that was like what my dad was doing, like multi-sport, off the grid, navigating with a map and compass with a team, and, light trail packing, like kind of living off the basic essentials. And so he was pretty ecstatic for sure when one day when I was 9 years old, I kind of asked him if he knew what the 7 summits were, and just kind of expressed some interest in mountains for the most part. And so, I could tell, like, for both him and Karen, it was a cool way to, I don't know, I guess, like, relate to me a little bit more. Like, I knew that as long as I just followed whatever they were doing, it would be a good method of, like, training, because it was pretty intense what they were doing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, as time went on, I remember, like, going into my first hike and just being like so winded, literally not even 5 minutes into it, just saying like I wanted to give up, and I knew that there was going to be a long road ahead as far as like building up endurance and emotional strength too, to even like climb something like Mount Kilimanjaro, which, you know, is a big mountain, but, you know, as far as like difficulty wise on the scale of climbing the 7 summits, it ended up being the first mountain that we were aiming for. And I don't know what got into me. I just kind of, you know, saw pictures of these mountains. Like I was able to just kind of visualize them when I would just do like my internet research and just see the most like beautiful and stunning pictures, and thought it would be a great way to kind of travel the world and see new cultures. And I was like really big into animals at the time. I thought it'd be a great way to like see nature and all the biological aspects I was into. And yeah, and then after about a year after that, July of 2006 rolled around. I had just turned 10 years old. We had our flights booked to Tanzania and Africa, and I hopping on that plane was something that, you know, I that was when I really felt like, well, we're really doing it. There's no going back. And it was incredible. I was fearful for sure. You know, every mountain that I hopped on the plane for and like sat down, I just knew like, all right, we're really doing this. And once I, you know, feel the plane take off, that's just kind of that's when reality sets in a little bit more. And that's like an emotion that, you know, I don't revisit too much, but that's like why I love traveling. I just know that it's like, all right, well, this plane isn't turning around. We're going and doing it. So, but yeah. And then long story short, after summiting Mount Kilimanjaro, I knew that it was going to be, first of all, Kilimanjaro was like, okay, we're going to do this and maybe, you know, climb one or two of the other 7 summits, see how we're feeling. And at the summit, I just went ahead and committed and just dove right in and said, 1 down, 6 to go. Let's aim for it all. Let's complete this list.
That's how I treat like weekdays. Like Monday, I'm like 1 down, 5 to go. Holy shit.
Monday's over. All right. Tuesday.
Yeah. It's like it's funny enough that you say that, because I mean, it's kind of like a weekday. It's just something that you you know, I feel like you can hesitate at it a lot, like kind of in the beginning about it. And, you know, then that alarm goes off at Monday morning. You're like, well, what are you going to do? Go back to sleep? You're like, no way. So
kind of have to.
But no, that's great. You bring that up. So, yeah, I mean, to kind of paint a picture, I think that was just kind of like the first, I guess, chapter 1 and 2 of life, and where the roots kind of began, and it all kind of goes from there, mountain after mountain. And then, yeah, there's many more chapters to unfold there, but you know, it's a load of questions, so it's
now,
it's a lot to answer there.
At 10 years old, like you're in 5th grade, 4th grade, around there, like
6th grade.
No, where were you?
Yes.
6th grade's 12.
No,
right?
It's not.
Yeah.
Were you held back?
Yes, I was.
No. 4th grade was 9. 5th grade was 10. 6th grade was 11.
Okay.
7th grade was 12. Yeah.
So, like, at 10 years old, I'm sitting there worried about, like, what little league pitcher I'm going to face. Didn't matter because they got to hit the right field. But, like, you know, how do you prepare for that at 10? Like, were you into any other youth sports, or was it just mountain climbing, you know?
I was into other various sports for sure. Non-traditional for sure. A lot of sports that my dad kind of got me into, which ended up being endurance sports of that nature. Well, first of all, I love skiing. Like, skiing is still like the big thing that I would probably consider myself first and everything else second. But I was like a year and a half years old, like, or I was 17 months old when I was like first on skis. So it was like from the time I could like just about walk. And then and that's just like kind of what I did, you know, like the ski resort kind of became my daycare center growing up quite a bit. And my parents were in ski patrol. And then my dad later on, as he kind of focused into his, like, you know, followed his trajectory of endurance sports, he kind of also shared that aspect of like, you know, he started to get me into mountain biking and a little bit of like trail running and a little bit of like occasional rock climbing and rappelling and just stuff like that. That was really cool to like dabble into. I never really like focused so much into one sport until mountain climbing. And then mountain climbing became that thing that was kind of like everything that we, you know, prepared for, especially for these expeditions that were, you know, multi-day, multi-week, and you got to have everything so like precisely planned and laid out before going to any of these trips. And that took a lot of work. So it's a lot to unfold there as far as like the preparation goes. But every day coming home after school was just, get home, like chill out for a second. And that's kind of where I learned a little bit about myself and the fact that and I think a lot of people can relate to this with working out too. It's like you get home, it's like the moment you sit down and like play on your phone a little bit, it's like that's over. It's going to be so much harder to get back up and get motivated again. It's like you just gotta get home and chug some water, eat something, and then just get like right to it. And I'm very like momentum driven. When I lose momentum, and it's same thing with all of us, but like me especially, I've learned like it's so hard to like kind of re-pick myself back up too. And I had my dad's house and then I had my mom's house, so I split time evenly between them. And my dad was very focused on like consistency a little bit more. My mom wasn't quite as like she wasn't pushing me as much. She'd be like, hey, like you have this thing to go train, like you should go probably do that, probably go do something to at least prepare for it. And she wouldn't be like as on me though. So like every time I'd go to my dad's, I'd have to like kind of rebuild the rhythm, and then go to my mom's house, kind of lose it. So it went back and forth for sure.
When I talk to like guys like you, I realize how insignificant my life has been so far. Like I used to go home and just raid the cabinets for Dunkaroos, and like I didn't do anything when I was that young. I would actually leave the gym if there was no good parking spot, and like that's how I am. So
Scott
like,
had a mountain of candy wrappers. That's the only thing.
So like I'm not an outdoorsman at all. I am not built for it. I am not one of them. So I know Eric is kind of more that person. So Eric, go on if you got any questions.
Nothing to the extent that you did, but I lived in Portland, Oregon a little bit, and I used to hike around there and Sedona and stuff. But in regards to like your parents, now I feel like parents with 13-year-olds, they don't even want to leave them in the house alone for an hour or two. Did your parents get any backlash for bringing you at such a young age to these, some people would say very dangerous? Like, did they fear that anybody would try to get them in trouble or anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. My dad and Karen took a fair bit of heat. I won't lie, and definitely say they did, because I remember like when we first touched base back in the States, and for some reason their phones were just like absolutely blowing up as far as just like all sorts of criticism and emails and random texts, and somehow like people just get a hold of your phone number, and it's just like super weird. But also it's like they definitely were under the radar too. Like I didn't know if they were as prepared for that, for sure. They stuck it out really well with being able to kind of explain that it was my goal. Like I was the one, if anything, that like kind of dragged them into this. And it wasn't too I think when people like saw me and like saw like some of the passion that I like spoke with, and like how genuinely like stoked I was to like go on each of these climbs, their opinions could change. But in like small bits of airtime on the news, when people are like, oh, who's this kid? They're watching the morning news, and then all of a sudden I come on, and it's just like this very unusual thing that can be very easily looked at as, I don't know. I think people can sometimes feel like threatened in some senses, or just, I don't know. I that's when I kind of understood, like, there's kind of like some mundane, or I guess the word I'm looking for is like, I mean, yeah, there's people who live tend to live like, I don't want to say like mediocre lives, because everyone's usually different, but like
they have safe lives.
I think like ambition. I've learned I've learned that ambition can be perceived as a threat, for sure. Amongst like a lot of people, and honestly, that's just like kind of basic human nature as well, and I don't blame anyone for that. But yeah, I think like people will see like the parents were, it was their shot at like getting in the limelight too, or people could perceive it as that too. And honestly, we were like, I was not prepared for like all the media hype whatsoever, and it was like weird to kind of learn how to like be myself on camera, and to be this and that. You're almost like becoming a different person than you normally are, and after like getting a taste of LA, New York, and just that whole scene. It's weird, man. I really don't think I could thrive in that scene, but I'm glad I got a taste of it because I know what it's like. So
Yeah.
yeah. But as far as parental criticism, yeah, they definitely got their fair share of heat. It was mostly after Everest. Like all the other climbs, for some reason, like there was literally little to none whatsoever. And then after like Mount Vincent too, because Mount Vincent in Antarctica was the last mountain. Like I feel like there wasn't as much, but it was after Everest. Like that was the one that made like the world headlines. So obviously there was a lot more attention after that.
Oh. Antarctica. What's Antarctica like? Just what you think? Just nothing.
So is it like Uncle Arctica?
I've never heard that one. That's a great dad fun. Dude, Antarctica's sick, man. It's
no
like
relation.
All right. It's one of my. No, you're good. Antarctica's sick, man. It's one of my favorite places ever. I love that continent to death. I really fell in love with it because it's the last, to give you an idea, I mean, it's the last discovered place by humans in the world. And there's some research to back that up too. It wasn't until like 1860s something, like that land, nobody had ever even like seen that land, nothing, like before like the 1860s. And then after, in the early 20th century, there ended up being a race between the US and Finland to the South Pole. And we ended up being there during the 100-year anniversary of the Finnish team reaching the South Pole and becoming the first humans to reach that point. So that was really cool to experience. And yeah, you just get such an international crowd down there, and like of just explorers and people who are just crazy enough to even go there alongside of us too, because it's a, I don't know, Antarctica is not on a lot of people's first destination place. It's not palm trees and margaritas and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But
I want to visit every continent. I just have 6 left, so it's on there.
Dude, yeah, man. If you can, seriously get down there if you can. It's like so worth the money, and I think it's like so worth like just being, I don't know, man, you're just so far from everything. Like you're just so like you're just out there. Like you're the furthest away from civilization that you could possibly be. And and it's just so vast and just so unexplored and like kind of hostile in a sense too. Like honestly, I mean, yeah, Antarctica is one thing. Alaska, we can get to it later. Alaska, I think, blows everywhere out of the waters as far as hostility, remoteness, coldness, just like the most rugged place. Antarctica, on the other hand, it's just a lot more vast and so unexplored and untouched. But amazing place. 10 out of 10.
That's how I felt when I was in Alaska. That's how I felt. You feel like you're a guest there.
Yeah.
And then you go back to New Jersey and New York and you see like an animal, like, get it, kill it. It's like, it's so opposite of what we're used to.
You're in a place like Alaska, you are a part of the ecosystem again, and a lot of the modern world, like us as humans have really removed ourselves from that. And Alaska is like so humbling because it's like, dude, if you don't have bear spray on you, if you don't, like, everything is like, all the odds are against you to just even survive up there. And it's like, even the town of Anchorage, man, like I couldn't live up there, that's their city, but it's like, dude, anywhere else, it's like you watch Life Below Zero or Ice Road Truckers or any of those shows, man, you like every time I watch those shows, I could just feel the coldness, like, oh man.
Yeah. And they in the winter, some of those areas, they don't even turn their cars off. They just keep them plugged in because it gets so cold, the gas will freeze. It's like, why the hell would you want to live there? But people are nuts.
I believe it. Yeah, no, they do. I mean, some people are just live there for years, and that's just like what's cool about just a human being. It's just being able to adapt so well. Like no matter the conditions or the setting, and it's like you're just you're just gonna be there, make it work, and figure it out. And it's like either adapt and survive, and that's kind of your only option, So
or die.
Alaska's someplace special for sure.
Well, I could safely say Antarctica is somewhere that you'll never catch me. This is not for me. Brian, go on if you got anything.
Now, I imagine when you were a kid, going out to do these things, there had to have been some level of fear. Regardless of how prepared you are for anything you're doing, and I feel like this goes for anyone, there is a level of fear. So how did you kind of work through that and go to do these things?
He started drinking at a young age.
Oh, that's a whole nother subject. But yeah, man, it was fear was. Yeah, you learn about fear, and you learn to face it, look it in the eyes. I still cope with it quite a bit, just like in everyday stuff. And I like to scare myself a lot. I just think it just kind of makes me like feel the most alive. I think, well, there's fear in which, like, I think on these mountains for the most part, like it was very rare instances where I was like actually scared for my life. One of those obviously, like, being there was and this goes into a whole different story. Being on Mount Everest, we were roughly like 2.5 weeks into the climb, and in between camps at one point we were crossing over and traversing across like the only glacial point. Like the rest of the mountain was going to be like mostly exposed ridgeline and winds, in which, like, you know, weather is kind of like more your enemy up there. This point, we actually had to deal with more unpredictable forces, such as like shifting glaciers and ice and all this different stuff. That's, you know, entirely why we avoided going on the south side of Mount Everest, where you see where you cross over the Khumbu Icefall, which is a constantly moving and shifting glacier that just is so unpredictable and is just such a horrible place to be in. So that being said, that's why we chose the north side, but there's still a little bit of a section where you have to cross over that. And I remember it so vividly. Like it was a super, super hot day. I mean, it was probably like 40 degrees, but like that's so hot up there, you know, like you're down to your, you know, base layers and fleece and whatnot. And I remember crossing by two people, because we followed this fixed rope on the way up, basically. And so we got to kind of unclip and reclip back into like these, like in between anchors, essentially, in which this rope is kept in, to kind of put it simply. And so you cross paths with some people, obviously, and you kind of got to unclip and just kind of like make way for them and whatnot. So I remember crossing two people, just simply said hi. And then after continuing on for probably like, you know, 8 more minutes or so, I remember my dad just kind of like having this instinctual thing to say, and was like, hey man, or just kind of like told our team, like, hey guys, we should probably pick up the pace a little bit. Like, I don't have a great feeling about, like, we just need to get out of this zone as quickly as possible, because up to our left, as we were kind of traversing across this area, up to our left was this absolutely gigantic, what seemed just like a massive commercial building, just full on, like, it was just like huge, and just like we were in the shadow of it, and it was just like one of the most daunting things to like kind of see in a way. And also just one of those things that's just like, you just didn't have a good feeling being there. So after, like, you know, about 2 more minutes after that, I kid you not, man, it was like, I don't know what's the best way to probably to try to describe it. It's like it was almost like being in a bombing scenario, which was like, it's kind of crazy to describe it like that, but like all of a sudden you just feel this like huge booming noise that is just like, you can just feel it in like all of your nerves, and just like all of your, you know, it's like a deafening boom almost. And then you just see, like, right above you, all of a sudden you just see like chunks and slabs of ice just coming down and collapsing. And then all of a sudden you see it collapse, and then all of a sudden you see this cloud of white smoke and snow just kind of rushing towards you, like faster than you can even react. Like, you can't even count to 3 fast enough. Like, you just like are like, okay, whatever happens. And so I mean, that was an event that really tested fear for me, and I think it was just like a moment in which I was like, yeah, whatever happens, but we'll see where we end up, and then kind of work from there. But at the same time, it's like, I could be dead. Who knows? It's like kind of one of those things that you just like can only fight so much.
Yeah.
Luckily the dust settles. I'm buried up to my abdomen, basically, in all this snow. My dad is roughly like 1 or 2 feet behind me, not far at all. And then one of our Sherpa guides, Lama Karma Sherpa, he's right behind us, or right behind him. And I'm just trying to remember, like, I see my dad get up, and all of a sudden I just noticed this red spot on. He was wearing like a green toque or like a beanie, and he had this red spot. And I was kind of confused. Like, I didn't notice it until like a little bit later after that. We were just so focused on, like, we were just so full of adrenaline. We just like needed to get up and get out. And so the second half of our team, I mean, it was only 6 of us. So the other 2 or 3 were just right above us, like probably about 100 yards or so. We go link up with them. And I see my dad. I'm like, Dad, like, what happened right here? He's like, dude, your crampons literally went right into my forehead. If you don't know what a crampon is, it's like the spiky, it's like this attachment that you clamp to the bottom of your boot in order to like keep you stable on like firm snow and ice. And so these were like brand new, razor sharp. And then one had fully like gone into his skull and like punctured like a pretty big wound. And then I didn't notice until later because we were all like just so, live it off of adrenaline. And then we finally get up to camp 2 or get up to camp 1. And then, my dad shows me, he like opens these like little holes in his pants, and he shows me like on both of his thighs, both my crampons went into and punctured like both his thigh muscles. I didn't even have words. I was like, I know that sorry is not going to be enough here. And I knew he would, how can you be mad at that, in that kind of situation? But still, I was just like, I don't even know what to say here. So that was definitely like one of our biggest obstacles that, kind of tested our fear. And then I guess the other half of that too, it's like to kind of branch off the fear aspect. It's like there's also like the element of learning how to suffer too. And that I learned to do pretty well, and just kind of like understand that pain is like temporary, and overall it's like pain and suffering is like temporary, especially. But I guess being able to smell the roses every now and then, and just be able to look out, and enjoy this view and see this place that I'm just so lucky to visit. It's like a whole nother part of it. But yeah, just that building that whole endurance and stamina aspect of it is just so it's so important to do. And just to kind of learn that, it's just like at one point you just you get in a rhythm and momentum. You're just like, all right, one step in front of another. Right, it's like, gotta keep going. You just almost like start singing to yourself, and you're like, we're gonna get there one way or another. Like, just keep trudging on. Like, at some point it's like I stopped putting like muscle effort in. I was just like, more so I kind of learned how to just like, all right, one foot in front of another. Like, there's just days in which it's just like hours and hours, and it's just such a drag, and you're like, why am I here? And then whatever. And in those points too, it's like you can really get in your head if you allow yourself to. So that's another thing to learn how to avoid.
Ellie, if you got anything on.
Yes, a few. Okay, so since you're clearly into like the endurance stuff, have you done rim to rim to rim?
I haven't.
What's that?
I haven't, Ellie.
I'm surprised. You strike me as someone that would like done it multiple times by now.
No,
so
my
rim to rim. Scott is.
No, go ahead.
You go from rim to rim from the Grand Canyon, and so it's usually just rim to rim, but runners have turned it into rim to rim to rim, so you do it back and forth, and you I think it's like maximum 5,700 feet elevation. You go all the way down the canyon, then all the way back up, and then all the way down back to the other side. Yeah, I know these guys did it in like 24 hours, I think. I read it in like Runner's World. They were like trying to break some kind of record. First time they failed, obviously, and then second time they were like able to do it. But you're out there like 2, 3 in the morning, like you nap at like 1 a.m. and then get up at 3 to then keep going again. Yeah, it's nuts.
My roommate talks about it a lot. My roommate's a big endurance athlete for sure, and kind of more so than I am. And I'm it kind of takes a lot for me to kind of just rebuild like the gumption. It's like once I'm in the momentum, it's like, all right, like we can keep it rolling. But with him, he did some pretty cool adventures last year, and he's been talking about it a lot. And it's a lot. There's a lot of cool stuff within reach, like too, where I live as well. I mean, there's White Rim too, which I'm big into bicycling too, and White Rim is like a roughly 100-mile circuit, I guess, that you do in southern Utah. Is it Canyonlands, or I don't know? I think it's down there. I always forget. I'm horrible with location sometimes. And then the other one that I was like aiming to hopefully do is called the Whirl. It's called the Wasatch Ultimate Ridge Link Up, WRL, and WURL. And basically you go in between, like, you do this horseshoe of exposed mountain running, in which you go through like this horseshoe between Big and Little Cottonwood Canyon. If anyone's familiar with Utah and the Wasatch Range, basically it's 36 miles and like 19,000 feet elevation gain, and you do it all in one go too. So that's like a big thing to prepare for. I'd love to do that later this summer. If the stars align and if I'm strong enough by then. But yeah, it's for sure like rim to rim to rim would be like amazing to do sometime as well. And have you been to the Grand Canyon or?
No, but it's on my bucket list just to do rim to rim. I don't even do like all of it, but I have a friend who's training to do it for her 40th birthday, so she's been like,
oh, right.
That's kind of like yes, it kind of like built the buzz up. I was like, oh, I kind of want to try it now, you know.
Yeah.
We'll see how it works out for her, and then maybe I'll start putting in the time and effort to really preparing for that. But next question. Did you see green boots while you were up there?
I sure saw green boots. Yeah, that was kind of my interest.
That was weird?
Yeah.
What's that? Sorry.
So green boots.
Did you guys do
So
research?
green boots is for anyone who's familiar with Everest would know that along the route of the northeast ridge of Everest on the Chinese side, the first dead body that you are going to pass by is an Indian climber he's been coined the term green boots because he just has these like bright fluorescent green boots essentially, and it's a very you literally walk right past him, like you're inches from him whenever you pass by. So when she's talking about green boots, that's kind of like it's almost like a landmark at some point, in which you like you're saying like, all right, once we get to green boots, then it's up to Mushroom Rock from there, and then up from Mushroom Rock, it's up to like this ladder essentially that you gotta climb up. And but yeah, green boots is kind of like there's like 3 steps of like the northeast ridge on the summit push. Green boots is kind of like that first step in a way. And but yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's like it doesn't really feel real at that point, and I feel like I couldn't really process it too at that time.
Yeah, at that age, yeah, it's just kind of like, okay, maybe someone put it here. I mean, not that somebody did, but yeah, at that age, it's like.
But is he frozen? He's just frozen there? Wow.
Totally
so
frozen.
They think that he sat down, and then what's pretty common, and like you probably went over this like with your training and safety stuff, like sitting down and just be like, oh, I'm going to catch my breath, and then I'm going to take a nap, and then people take a nap and don't wake up.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's what the thinking happened to him, because he's like tucked away in a little limestone cave.
It'd be horrible if he's still alive, just frozen. Like,
me.
Understand?
No one has helped me in 40 years.
They just walk past me and look at my boots.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to make light.
Exactly.
That's not funny. Yeah.
But still, but
crazy,
I mean,
though.
But in a lot of.
He set out to like really climb this, and now he's just a landmark on it.
Well, he's gone now. No, he's gone now.
Wait,
he
really?
disappeared in 2014. Yeah.
He got up and left.
Wait, no.
Boots don't fail me now.
No way. What? I did not.
Yeah.
Why did I not know that?
No, I don't either. I literally just found out because I was like looking it up to see if he was on the same side that you said you traversed. I was like, I want to make sure that's right.
Well, that's weird because like just the way he's like positioned there's just
right.
There's just like no way that, I mean, somebody had to have moved him, because then honestly, like at that point, it's like there's no way he was going to move, because it's like you're like, for a lot of those climbers too, it's like after some time, like you like literally become a part of the mountain. Like you're almost like kind of cemented into the snow and ice and ground. It's like, and when you walk by him, you're just like, I'm surprised you said that, because you're like, there is no way he's going anywhere. And so
I know,
trying to
that's the
re-envision
thing
it, because
too. He's a popsicle in there.
Well, he's literally like, it's kind of like you said, like a limestone cave. So it's like, it's kind of a cave, but it's also like this, you can see why he wanted to like take shelter in a place like that.
Sure.
And so when you see it, you're like, okay, this kind of makes sense. But it's also like it's also like in this part of the route that you're like, no way. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
so yeah, Eric,
like it doesn't look real.
Yeah,
no, exactly. It looks like
crazy.
a mannequin.
He's frozen, but there's not ice on. Like you would think, like it warms up, because I saw something on Adam Ruins Everything. Have you ever heard of that show?
Totally.
Well, he did something on Mount Everest, and he was saying how because humans go to the bathroom on there, and obviously and waste and stuff, and heats up, and they're saying the bodies, because of changing in global temperature and everything, bodies are coming up now and going on the mountain and going into water sources and stuff. It's really, and then the sewage and everything. So it's really, really getting a little gross.
It's a biohazard. Yeah, Mount Everest has turned into an unfortunate biohazard now, which is actually my next question. How do you feel about that, with just between the tents, the canisters, and then the fecal matter, and it's becoming unearthed and now going down to the to base camp, and that's where all the locals get their water from, but now they're don't want to drink it, obviously, because it's being contaminated by fecal matter. So it's turning into this giant biohazard now.
Yeah, Everest is
it's like Trash Mountain, essentially.
I'm very conflicted on a mountain like that, because I'm glad I did it. At the same time, it's a very controversial mountain. Given there's a lot of factors into the controversy. You have what I feel is almost an underpaid and underappreciated Sherpa community that puts their lives on the line for the tourism and kind of the whole Western guiding experience for clients. Be so much trash up there. It's just a very high traffic mountain that a lot of people just kind of have their eyes on. And I'll be honest, Everest, I think it's kind of the equivalent of as far as even difficulty goes, it's like an Ironman almost. It's you know, if you complete it, that's no small deal for sure. But it's at the same time, it's there's way harder things to do. But also it's just it's very exploited, and I think it's I have weird feelings about I almost don't know if I'd want to go back again. There's this film that you guys should watch. It's really, really good. It's on YouTube. It's a 20-minute film called The Ghosts Above. It was filmed and put together by Renan Ozturk, who was one of the climbers on Mount Meru with Jimmy Chin and Conrad Anker. Absolutely renowned climber and photographer and filmmaker. But I think it really paints such a raw, detailed picture of what Everest has come to be in the past decade, and just some of I don't know, it paints such a weird picture of some of the leftover tents that just get left up there. And then also they were kind of on this mission to try to find Sandy Irvine, who most would believe would have the concrete evidence that him and George Mallory were the true first summiters of Mount Everest. But it's this whole story back in the mid 1920s, in which George Mallory and Sandy Irvine, they disappeared into the fog, and nobody knows if they had summited and died on the way down or if they had climbed back up. But Sandy is most likely known to either have the camera or have a watch or have an altimeter that indicates that they made it to the summit. So that was part of the mission, and obviously they didn't find him. But then they kind of went to the whole reasoning, why are we here? Everest has kind of become this colonial hot ground in a way of you have the tourists, and then you have the Sherpa community as well, and it's weird. I can't really think of a single word to describe it, but I think it's a great film that kind of paints such a good portrait of what it's become, and I highly recommend it. It's only 20 minutes, but it's such a well done movie.
Cool.
So what you said, though, it's become so commercialized, because as someone who's not familiar with a lot of mountains or outdoors, I know Everest. You know what I mean? It's becomes such the pop culture thing. You tell everyone, totally someone doesn't even know what I climbed Mount Everest. Whoa, you know what I mean? And they just know Everest, what it is, which I want to piggyback on. You don't have to answer, but when you turned 21 at bars, I mean, how awesome was that to tell girls that? Seriously, was that a pickup line you used? Because mine was I rap, it didn't work at all. So yours is I climbed 7 summits, I climbed a mountain. How much did you throw that out, or did your friend always throw it out as the wingman?
Yeah, well, let's put it like this. I think I give rappers a lot of credit, or people who aspire to be a rapper, because they just have so much just confidence, and they're just willing to like put themselves out there. They're like, I don't know, they'll just start spitting game, and it's just like so not me. I'm like such a you really have to yank it out of me, I think, in a lot of ways, because then I'm like, oh god, now I have to go like 20 minutes into like this whole story, and
just like drunk at a bar. Was that hard?
Yeah. So I don't know.
What did you wear? Did you have hand warmers?
Were you cold? Yeah, dumb question.
What color was your tent? Did you use poles?
I can't say I utilized it that much, to be honest. I don't know. It's like, it's not me. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I love to party, but I'm also like, it's also a topic that it's like once the all the focus and attention is like right at me,
Right.
I easily get pretty like, oh god.
That's got to be horrible at like a cocktail party or something, like at a wedding, and someone hears about it, and you're just like, man, I'm just trying to enjoy the night, and you're sitting there talking to people about it, or coming on a podcast and we're annoying you. Know, things like
well, a podcast is different, whereas like, just sharing it to like 3 people over drinks is like, I don't know, it's different. It's like also I'm trying to like just, I also like do that for work too. Like I tell that story a lot for like, I do public speaking and all that stuff, and it's just like as soon as I like go into some stories, and not saying I don't enjoy it, but it's like I've done it a lot. And to like do it when I'm just like trying to take a load off at a bar or whatever, and it's pretty it's kind of like the last thing you want to do.
I would have Everest tattooed on my back, and I would always wear a shirt that said, "I climbed Everest. What have you done?" I would be telling the whole world, everybody who ever met. I'd be on the bus, be like, "I climbed Everest. Have you done it?" I tell everybody.
Like, look it up.
Yeah,
it's so not me. Here, sorry, my AirPods just died. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Question.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. Yeah, I'm pretty
reserved. You're a reserved guy.
It takes a lot.
It's called humility and humble.
Out of me, but like a podcast setting, it's like, man, I love to like still share the story, but I also like to kind of like just add on like, I don't know, what did the experience mean? And I think it's like whatever helps me kind of be able to process the experience more, I'm always super down with. So, that's just kind of what it is.
I do have to ask, how realistic is the movie Vertical Limit from 2000? I love that movie, and it just feels like it's not.
That's part of my gun to your head later, but go on, answer the question.
Your own question.
Or a limit vertical.
Very, very, very dramatic. I watched that video. I watched that movie like a handful of times. Like we had it on DVD in my house, if I remember correctly. So that's so funny you bring it up, because I haven't seen that in a while. Wait, Vertical Limit, and then there's Into the Void. There's 2 different ones. Vertical Limit was
Bill Paxton.
They had the bombs. They had to go they had those, and they would leak. They gave them bombs, like TNT or something that just leaked, and they found out on the mountain that it was exploding.
Yeah. Okay. Now I remember it now, because Into the Void was like an actual like story that was being told. Like it was like a nonfiction. Into the Void was about this like crazy other story about these mountain climbers in South America or Argentina, and one gets stuck in a crevasse, and then but the Into Vertical Limit I know was like that was like a very unrealistic like portrait of K2 and whatnot and the climbing scene. So I watched it a handful of times. I still like I was very observant of climbing films like back then, for sure. Like I was a student of the game, as far as like I'd watch the Everest IMAX movie a lot and just all this different stuff. And dude, it was I was into it for sure. Like I made sure to like really do my homework just to like really know what to expect. I was on Google Earth all the time, and so Vertical Limit saw quite a bit.
Great movie.
But
I like that movie.
It's a great movie.
Wasn't bad.
We'll do like one more round, because I know we're keeping in. Like you're being very generous with your time. Go on, Ellie.
Do you know how much your permits cost, and how your dad and stepmom were able to secure them for all 3 of you? Because I know it's like super hard to get a permit, and then to secure it for like all 3 in your party. And like, were you guys a part of a like expedition group, or was you just going like you 3, or how did that happen? How were you able to walk that in?
Yeah, the whole finances, that part of it is it's a bit of a stretch. Like we learned how to really stretch our dollar on a lot of it. We were by no means at all like we did not have a lot of wealth to really make it happen. We crowdsourced a lot. We borrowed a lot. We did a lot like on our own budget too, and it
and I mean, we did have like some sponsors too as well who kicked in some money as well. So like we're super grateful for that. And yeah, it took a village too. Like the community of Big Bear was awesome, and people would come together on like my fundraising nights too to try to help like make these expeditions happen. And even then, I mean, it still like didn't really add it up. And then I just think about these people who just have like this, they just have like exuberant amounts of wealth. And I'm just like always blown away about how people can be like, oh yeah, like, that's just like a month's worth. Like for me, it's like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, I'm going to go to Everest.
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
It's like,
cool.
That blows me away still.
But it gives you more of a drive though, probably, honestly, like the fact you have to kind of work for the missions, if not, you know?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, I would way rather choose the route that we took for sure. And I don't know, it taught resourcefulness. It also taught like, I think, like drive for sure, in which it's like, how are we going to make this happen? What are we, I don't know. And you also have to think long term. It's like, all right, well, it's like, I got a college fund too. It's like all this different stuff that, you know, you just kind of have to factor in. You got to think in the long term, but you also got to think like, you know, well, all right, well, what's the ROI of this? Well, we could also write a book for this in which it can also, you know, generate some income at least to kind of help pay back some of the finances too. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot. I mean, the permits themselves are like, they're at least like $11,000 per person for Everest. And that's going on like the cheap side too. Like we went to China, we went on the Chinese side with like, you should have seen our setup compared to like the people with like truly decked out setups too.
Yeah, the real mountaineers.
They make you pass green boots. You know you're on the cheap side.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know. It's like our dining tent was like literally the size of my room here, and it's like, or ours was, you know, like we were very minimalist, essentialist. Like we had a very small team, which all in all, I think was a better experience because we got to learn so much about each other. It's like you see these parties of like 20 plus people and you just like don't really see any, I don't know, unity. You don't really see any like.
No, because it's just, I want to get to the top and then get out of here alive and forget you guys.
Exactly. And then oftentimes you'll see them like you know, some ability rate levels will just kind of split off into different groups. Whereas like we were like together like the whole time and didn't matter what. So it was just a really, I'm glad we did that too, because like I also got to learn how to like, we had more like intimate like conversations and got to be like, you know, build a solid relationship with the Sherpa guides who we went with, Ong Pasong, Lama, and Dawa Sherpa, and then Kumar as well. You know, just such an amazing crew. Like Kumar, best dining chef guy who was just like cooking. He never duplicated a single meal the whole time. And who else? Like, yeah. And then Ong Pasong and Lama Karma and Lama Dawa, they were just like, they had such, they're such like gentle, humble human beings in that community and that indigenous culture. Like they're just so they're so soft spoken. You know, they do not toot their horn at all. They're very I mean, they just kind of let their actions do the talking. They were such badasses who had climbed, you know, combined like they had combined experiences of like 10 Everest summits too, along with other Himalayan mountains too. So it's like, you know, we really, but at the same time though, it can be a little bit tough because like they're very non-confronting as well for the most part. So they're very like, you know, I think when we try to like, you know, pull advice out of them or like just try to get their input, they can oftentimes be a little bit quiet, like just with the hopes of not trying to upset us. So it's like out of good,
just like,
it's out of good intention. But at the same time, we're like, hey, like we value your guys' input. Like we want to make sure like your voice is heard. Like we, you know, you guys have done this. Like we want to make sure that, you know, we're doing this respectfully. And also just like, we want to make sure you're a part of the picture as much as we are. And I mean, looking back at it, it's like, you know, we just tried to, you know, pack out everything that we packed in as far as like, you know, garbage, waste, gear, whatever it was. Like we made sure to leave no trace. We were just like trying to be as respectful as possible to our guides as well. And just tried to like set a good example of what we think like Everest climbers should be. But at the same time though, it's like, you know, you're part of this bigger picture of Everest, and it's still like, you know, I don't want to like have any guilt or like have any like imposter syndrome of like going to a place like that. And it's like, at the end of the day, I'm glad I did it. It's like great stories to tell. It's just like, I just don't think I'd see myself going back really. So
no, that's really good. You're a really humble dude, man. Like I personally would be taking all the credit, and for you to like sit there and give credit to the people who helped you, there's not a lot of people who would do it. You're one of the nicest people we've had on here.
Like, Scott would have been like, I saved my dad. He was like, help me, and I grabbed him.
So this radio show, it was like you said, it started out as a hip hop.
Yeah. We kind of just branched out. We started just interviewing battle rappers, and then every Friday we just reach out to different kinds of people, whether it's like writers, actors, comedians, adventurers. So so magicians. So that's kind of
morticians.
How long has this been going on?
Over a year.
Since the quarantine started.
I was gonna ask, yeah. Okay,
that's when we picked up with the Zoom interviews. We've done about 90 interviews.
Okay.
So,
sick, man.
Yeah.
Well, I applaud it for sure. It's sick that you like just dove right into it. And even if you like don't have all like the cool podcasting, gear and essentials or whatever, like all the expensive microphones, it's like it's pretty cool to see like what's just possible even nowadays.
Right.
Like, your own phone can like film better quality than the best cameras back in the 90s. It's like kind of unreal to see like what the possibilities are. And it's overwhelming to see like how many options there are as far as like, the internet is literally like everything these days as far as like how you can truly like make a living and be relevant. And it's super cool to see what you guys are doing. And it's cool. It's like, it's inspiring to me. It gives me ideas. And so that's like why I thought it was cool to hop on here.
That's so cool. We inspire someone.
We're inspiring him.
Yeah. We inspire someone who climbed Mount Everest at 13. I mean, look, we're not trying to like build a mold here, but we're
saying starting a podcast on Zoom and then climbing Everest.
Jordan, all right, really quick. Go on.
Oh, I was going to ask, you guys are all in California? Or
no, we're us three up top. The men are from Jersey, and Ellie's out in Cali.
The men are from Jersey, the women are from Cali.
From Jersey. Love it, man.
Yeah.
Hey,
really quick. You said you wanted to you like being out in nature and animals. What's your favorite animal?
Favorite animal? Snow leopard. I think they're badass.
I knew you were going to say snow leopard. I knew it.
When they pee, it's wild. They just pee on rocks and stuff.
Yeah. They're such sick animals. It's like if you can get like high definition photos of them, it's just like one of those like, it's just such a beautiful creation of nature that you're just like, how did everything become that? And it's like, I don't know. I love it.
Rare, right?
Yeah.
Yes. To see them in the wild, like they'll have cameras up there for like years and not see them.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. They had the mother, and she just literally like there's a mountain end of the mountain. She just walks in, just pees all over, and I think that's how a male finds her.
Yeah,
you and the peeing stuff.
Children.
Is that your fetish?
Snow leopards peeing is my thing. Very rare, so I never bring it up.
That's how I try to attract females. I just piss on rocks. They come out.
And he's dressed as a snow leopard.
And they come to you. That's awesome.
Jordan, we have a final segment we do here. It's called Gun to Your Head. It's like a Would You Rather, and we keep score. Okay. Now don't be tricked. Don't be tricked. Ellie,
stop.
Ellie always gets her dog up there before this because she thinks that's going to be like, oh, she has a cool dog. I'll choose her. What we do is...
No dogs allowed.
We do 2 questions each, and you got to answer them. And you pick the winner of your favorite question.
You can have a top 2. You can have a top 2.
Okay, all right, but each of you guys are answering. Okay, I see.
No, just you. Only your answer. Only your answer.
I'm answering.
And what we're gonna do here is we're gonna do one at a time this time. We're gonna go around.
Let's do it. I'm ready. I'm born ready.
I'm gonna start first, and I'm just gonna say there's a lot of animosity here. People.
No, just ask the question.
All right, we'll go.
Ask the question.
All right. So first one. For 15 minutes, you have to hang off of a cliff or get hangers thrown at you by a guy named Cliff.
I'll hang off the cliff. Easy.
Okay, fair enough. Eric, go.
Would you rather be trapped on a mountain with nothing to do or lost at sea with only Mountain Dew?
Lost at sea with only Mountain Dew.
Solid.
Oh, really?
That was great.
Okay. Thanks, Brian.
Ellie, you're up.
All right. Would you rather have webbed feet or webbed hands?
Mm.
Can't have
Oh,
both.
that's a good one. All right, webbed
Wow.
hands. Let's go.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Brian?
Damn dog.
Would you rather be a climber? Would you rather be a climber who's afraid of heights or a diver who's afraid of drowning?
I am a diver who's afraid of drowning. I'll pick the diver. Yeah, I'll pick the diver.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right,
I don't know why. I do it.
Jordan, the lady who went missing was Sandy Irvine, you said?
Oh, it was a guy. Yeah, Sandy
Yes,
Irvine.
sorry.
You're thinking of Sleeping Beauty.
Sorry. So, would you rather be the one who finds Sandy Irvine or hold every world record for mountain climbing?
Ooh, Sandy Irvine would unlock a lot.
Okay.
For sure.
Eric?
I know exactly what you did there.
He did a lot there.
Yeah.
Would you rather find that your map is a little off from the trail or find yourself trailing off every time you speak?
Oh, man, 2 bangers tonight.
I'm going to go with option A.
You came with it. Thank you.
Ellie, you got another one?
No, I'm putting all my eggs in the webbed basket, if you will.
Brian, you're up. Go.
I can swim
All right,
better.
last one. Would you rather know how you'll die or know when you'll die?
Oh, I know this question.
I know what I'm going to
I've been preparing my whole life.
I already know how and when I'm going to die.
I'll do. I'd rather do when. At least I know I can like be a little bit more comfortable doing something that's like super dangerous, but I'll be like, clearly I'm not going to die. So yeah, I'll do the when.
All right, Jordan, you got to pick a winner. Your favorite question.
One.
Man,
Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew takes the win.
That was so enhanced. That's
Yeah.
not. That was. See, that it's becoming a mutiny. Now it's against me. I'm gonna have to start muting everybody while
what
the
was
guest
number
goes
two?
against.
No, I came
What was
with
number
it.
2?
He
My-
What
did.
was number 2?
Eric
Number
came with
2.
it tonight, serious.
Number 2, I'm gonna go with. Oh man, I don't know. I didn't want hangers to be thrown at. No, actually, I'm gonna go with webbed feet or webbed hands.
Oh, suck it, Scott.
Oh yeah, take the silver. Who cares?
I will gladly take it because it just means you lost even harder.
Act like you've been there before, Ellie.
Yeah, little California silver, huh?
Hey, Jordan, really?
Nevada, but okay.
Jordan, really cool. Thanks for coming on, man. I know you're working on climbing. I read every high peak in each of the states. That's something you want to do?
So with that, it's kind of an eventual goal. It's not really a deadline to it. We were kind of, dude, exactly.
There's a hill that's 8 feet high in Nebraska.
I'm not. Like,
he just steps on an anthill.
He doesn't even need a water bottle.
Like
I drive up to it.
Like if I'm there, if I'm already there, like honestly, it's like there's a lot of places that are just so out of your way. And like honestly, it's like I'd rather cover New England and the West Coast up until like Montana, Colorado, and maybe the Dakotas, and then a little bit further south, and then in between there. I don't know.
Well, if you're ever in Jersey and have to climb something, let us know. We'll go have a beer together, man.
I've done Jersey before. What's it called? It's right outside of Sussex. It's called High Point. High Point's the name. It's like this big like spiral staircase tower that it's pretty cool. We did a New England tour like a while back when I was like 15. We did like Massachusetts, Delaware was funny. It was literally a sidewalk. New Jersey, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, and I think that's all we did. But yeah, it was rad. I love New England. Got a lot of
love. Appalachian Trail seems
cool.
What
about the Appalachian Trail?
From Georgia to
your alley too.
I don't like ticks. I don't like bugs, and like I don't like humidity. I don't know. I'll do it. But it's like I see some hikers come off of there and they're just picking so many ticks off. I'm like,
they're pretty busted after doing that one.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get Lyme disease, man. Like that's brutal.
That will ruin your life.
Thanks a lot, man. This was really fun. Let us know where we can catch you on your Twitter, Instagram.
Instagram's definitely a little bit more active there. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, definitely kind of more getting more and more like on the. I don't know. Everyone should just put their phones down and enjoy life for sure when they can.
Heard that.
But yeah, I mean, now follow what I'm up to. I love to kind of just post like cool stuff I'm doing, but I don't know, at the same time, it's like it's a balance for sure. After doing like some research and social dilemma and all that stuff, I'm like, man, this is just brutal. Like, so I hope everyone who's listening to this can I don't know, be mindful at least in some ways, and try to reduce and make little improvements over time. So yeah.